and show them this thing.
Just when we get to this bit.
Should we do?
Yeah, that'll do.
All right, let's crack on. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, I'm Juz.
I'm Dan. Yeah, so going to do a bit of an intro about kind of how this all came about.
Yeah, what are we talking about? We're talking about
Where's the book?
series lathe automation.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Suri, by the way.
Is he tuned in?
I don't know.
Yeah, true.
Maybe he will one day.
So yeah, I guess, you know, we've been working on this system for 3 and a bit years.
3 years.
3 years. It's been
3 long years.
It's been a bit of a slog, but yeah, we've got it to where it is, and we're really happy with it, and kind of ready to share it with other people who use the VR as well. We found it just, yeah, incredibly helpful. You know, no more missing wind-ons, no more missing lead-outs, and all of that, just to have it all automated and to not have to dial it in with a knob, and being able to just punch in your variables and for it to spit out an LPI for you is pretty awesome.
So, what I thought I might do is just explain how we got to this, because I think that, well, basically what happened was, one day we were in the studio cutting records, and all of a sudden our A lathe just stopped, and you know, we've all been there, start wandering around the studio tearing your hair out, wondering what the fuck's going on. Anyway, after heaps and heaps and heaps of mucking about, we worked out this was the problem. Now, most of you guys probably haven't seen this. I'll just get it a little bit closer up here. This is the motor that's inside the pipe on the top of your lathe, right? Actually, when you pull it out, it looks like that. It's got gaffer tape all over it. So, track down the problem to broken motor. So, we kind of just went into overdrive trying to work out where do we get these motors from, you know, and unfortunately Suri had sanded off all of the identifying marks off those motors, like some of the other components. He got into that stuff too, but eventually tracked it down to a Swiss company. Can't even remember the name of it, so long ago. And anyway, we ordered them, and they were going to take some months to get to Australia. So in the meantime, we basically came up with this idea, and it started out life very differently, but it kind of got us out of the shit while we were waiting for these motors to arrive. And basically, the motors did arrive eventually, and we installed them, but have never used them. We've never even connected them up. But they're in there, they're in our lathes. But that's basically what happened at the very beginning, about 3 years ago. And here we are today with a product. Like, at first we weren't trying to really sort of share this with everybody, we just were trying to get out of trouble, and it was so good, it worked so well, that we decided everybody should be using this, because it's life-changing, and it breaks the shackles.
Yeah. Free yourself from your lathe. Yeah, so I guess what we're going to do is talk a little bit about the features of the system. Juz is going to show you how to attach the bits to the lathe, which we timed it earlier. It was very quick. And then we'll just get the camera on the lathe, and we'll just show you like a 10-inch cut, and dial in the variables for that, and then we'll have a little Q&A at the end, just to answer any questions and see what you guys think, basically. So should we talk about the features?
Well, let's just talk about, okay, so what we're doing first up on Sunday, is it Sunday night it goes live?
I think maybe Monday, but yeah.
Okay, Sunday or Monday, whatever. It's hard to know where we are in the world. We're going to release the first 10 units, which pretty much all of the parts have arrived for, and we've started constructing them. So the turnaround on those is going to be fairly quick, should be about a month or less, hopefully. So that's kind of what we're looking at. That's why we're doing this, so that you guys have got an idea of what it is that you're potentially going to buy. So feature-wise, I think, Dan, you take them through maybe how the MIDI works.
Oh yeah, so it's the system's automated by MIDI notes, which you kind of import into your DAW. That's what controls like the lead-in track gaps, like lead-in spiral, track gaps, and lead-out spiral is all initiated with MIDI notes. Every action that happens on the machine, whether it's turning on external things like heat lamps or your SP10, the head going up and down, what else? Like nudges, enabling the stepper, can all be done in MIDI notes within your DAW as well. So that leaves like kind of huge potential for experimentation, I guess.
So for example, you could do like, you could run a lead in, have a track come on, which then goes to a lock groove, then the head lifts up, gets out of that, goes on, continues on, and then you could put another track and then maybe another lock groove after that. Like you can kind of construct really complicated mastering stuff with just sticking some MIDI notes here and there. You know, it's really easy to do tricky stuff. So
in that aspect, you can get quite creative with your cuts. So it's controlled with MIDI. We have a 5-inch capacitive touch screen, where if you're just doing a regular cut, you punch in your program time, which is essentially the run time before you want the lead out spiral to start. You punch in your time, you punch in your number of tracks, you punch in your RPM, you also put in
waiting.
Waiting. Is there anything else? RPM. Oh, the size of your disc as well, and then you're waiting, and this will give you an accurate LPI number. So it will tell you the speed of which the cut or which the motor is going in LPI. Your waiting is used for increasing your lead out spiral. So if you want to bunch stuff up and you don't want to get too close to the center, want to avoid some high frequency distortion, you can punch in a waiting number, and that essentially affects the available cutting area by a percentage, and then that also gives you an LPI. So,
and it will become clearer once we actually do a cut. But once you get accustomed to cutting records with your LPI in mind, you get accustomed to it really quickly. Basically, you start doing cuts, checking your cuts under the scope, and just taking note of what the material was, what that sort of, how much bass was present, all that sort of stuff, and then looking at, with that LPI in mind, looking at it under the scope, you get to know. I mean, traditionally, obviously, all mastering engineers would have been cutting with LPI. With these machines, we've kind of lost that ability, but this brings it back, and it's super important. Once you start using it or cutting records with LPI in mind, the accuracy of what you're doing is going to get heaps better. So that's been one of the best features for me as someone, because we're here all day, every day, cutting records just like you guys are, and that's why it's taken us 3 years to get this thing going, I guess. But because we're constantly cutting, and using the system, it's developed, and surprisingly, LPI was one of the things that I didn't realise I really needed. And if you do get it, you'll see what I mean very, very quickly. In the first week or so, you will just go, right, I know what the LPI I'm trying to target here is, and that's what you're looking at, which is really helpful.
Yeah. So we also have a bunch of settings as well that you can change. You can change lead in and lead out LPI. You can also change the size of your lead in, like the minimum size you want your lead out spiral to be, and you'll also be able to change your available cutting area as well. So in essence, and LPI all updates automatically whenever you update those parameters. So LPI is a real useful tool in that aspect. What else do we have?
Let's touch on, a lot of people have been asking us about controlling multiple machines. So the way it's been set up, the software that Dan's written, it basically allows for one computer to control up to 9 lathes. Now, we tried to work out a way that you didn't have to buy 9 of our units, and we tried sort of ganging multiple motors onto a single rack unit, and we couldn't work out how to do it, basically. So sadly, for each lathe, you've got to have an entire unit. But the upshot of that is, if you've got multiple machines, it's super simple to run. You could run 9 cuts at once off a single computer with a single sound source, which, I mean, if you had to do that manually, I don't know, you'd be running around like a headless chicken.
Yeah, for sure. Your machines. Oh yeah, it's also going to store your stylus hours and your previous stylus hours, so you can compare. You can track your kind of how much use you're getting out of your diamonds. You can set your start positions for your 12, your 10, and your 7 as well, and really any size you like. But those are like the 3 kind of defaulted ones.
Oh, presets. So if you're doing say you're doing a short run of 7s, and then you want to quickly run off a single record, you can store those cuts for your A and B side into, there's 4 spots, so you can go, okay, or you could say, I'm going to cut the rest of this run next week, I'm going to move on to something else now. You can just recall that exact set of parameters for those cuts and store them in 4 different memory spots.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much everything.
I'm sure there's tons of stuff.
Yeah, there's also, so with the external devices that you can attach, you can get them to start and stop at different spots, either when the head itself returns home.
So, for example, you could turn your suction off. Whenever the head comes up, you can go, okay, if you're just running one lathe, that might be what you'd do. And whenever my head's not on the plastic, suction off. Suction on when I initiate a cut. Or for SP10 users, we've incorporated an SP10 start-stop function, which your MIDI notes can start and stop your turntable. Could be heat lamps, could be, we've got anti-static fans here that we run off those relays. So we just have MIDI notes at the appropriate spots in the program. We hit go, fans come on, lights come on, everything. You don't have to do anything. So the whole idea of it was that you just put down a piece of plastic, clean it, hit go. And really good for short runs. If you can save 3 minutes per disc on a run of 57 inches, that's a lot of time saved, you know, and it doesn't seem like much in the cut, but at the end of the day, you're probably going to be leaving work maybe an hour earlier, you know.
Yeah, and no more spinning back that wheel.
Yes, you can throw your wheel in the bin.
No more RSI anymore, and that's been the most useful thing for me, is like being able to do other things while a cut is going on. You know, if you've got emails to attend to, you can do that.
We make covers. We go to the beach sometimes.
Go
to the post office.
So maybe we'll crack on with.
Yeah. All right. Let's. What are we doing now? We're going to build it.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll just turn the camera on for this one, and Joz is going to show you how to set it up. Basically,
it only takes a couple of minutes.
I'll just quickly see if I can get that a little bit. You just move it around a little bit. Sweet.
Alright, well, the first thing you can do is take your head off. Now, this was as stock as I could get it. I actually forgot. Some people, I don't know if people use them or not, but Suri he had this big bit of threaded rod on here. That was the only bit, I totally forgot about that and just couldn't find it. But other than that, I think this lathe is pretty much stock. Oh, and the motor in here, obviously you've got wires coming out here, whatever, you won't need them anymore if you buy this system. So, take your head off. Then probably the funnest part for me is taking your big black wheel off, and you do that. I don't know, some people may not have done this, but this, you know, your little handle thing, that just unscrews. Then you can unscrew this and throw it in the bin. Then what you're going to do is take the little handle off, that bit of aluminium. Then we're going to grab magnetic coupling, screw this bit back on. Is this obvious what I'm doing?
Yeah, it's kind of hidden, but...
Alright, anyway, in just a few easy steps, you have your magnetic coupling.
I'll just move it over to see if we can see that a little better. Oh, so you can see there, we got the magnetic coupling and then the...
That's taken off, magnetic coupling off. So then we'll move on to the head. So again, I don't know if people have done this or not before, but I'll just show you how it works. Your little handle spins, you unscrew it, and that unlocks it. Pull it off this shaft. The other thing you have to take off is this, the little thing that your head lifting lever rests on when it's down. Unscrew that. And then this bolt here, we're going to take that off. And I'll show why in a second. Get that little washer off. Okay. Then we're going to grab our head servo and a little thumb screw. So this is going to bolt onto here, and this is what controls your head now. Push that onto the shaft, and actually I'll just explain the shaft just in case no one's seen inside. I noticed My Shank's now selling these, but this is, see if we can get a good shot of that. See, this shaft has this little offset part, which basically is the culprit for raising and lowering the head. So this shaft goes all the way through this piece here. So when you're sticking this on, it's probably good to just make sure that, because this shaft can actually just push all the way through. Maybe just rest your finger on there, push it on, little thumb screw in here, holds it on. And that bit is done. Then we just grab a little Allen key, knit that up, just tightens onto the shaft. Then we grab this piece, will come in your little package. This is your head lifting and lowering. Maybe I'll put it through there just to look neat. So where you took that bolt, that nut off, stick that on. That now gives you somewhere to plug this in. And it plugs, and then that continues on to a breakout box which sits underneath the lathe. That's all tight, that's all done. And then put your limit switch on, which is just a micro switch on a little bracket. Oh, hang on. So, something like this will, maybe not exactly looking like this, but something like this will come in the package. We'll screw that into where that long bit of threaded rod was. I think the idea behind that threaded rod was something to do with measuring cuts or something.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
measuring your lead out.
Something. I don't know. Yeah, whatever it was. So we just push that on there until it goes click. And then we do up this little thumb wheel here. And we plug that into the breakout box. That would be down there. Then you can put your head back on. And that is, I think, pretty much it. And then what you would do is put your, this is what the motor mount looks like. Something close to that anyway. Line that up. So we've got about a 1 mil gap between the two, and that is it, finished, ready to plug the rest into, like, you know, your stylus heat, whatever and whatever. So then you'll get something that looks more like that at the end. Move this one out of the way, and you can do a cut down.
Yeah, I'll just so here I'll start a cut. I'll just show you what the screen looks like. Alright, so this is a little extra bit that we're going to record just to show the screen and the functionality, because we didn't get a good bit of footage of it when we did the live stream. So this is like your main cutting page here. I can't remember the exact variables I put in on the cut that we were doing, but I'll just show you how we kind of set it up. So oh yeah, so that wrong. So you put in your time and then your size, you put in a number of tracks, you put in your RPM, and now we have an accurate LPI there. If you wanted to increase your lead out, you could add a weighting, say 20%, and see we have a new LPI there because the available cutting area has essentially been squashed up. I'll just show you, we have a manual cut page. This is like if you don't want to use the automation or you want to do some other things. We have stylus up and down, we have the relays here, which you can switch on. There's our light, you can see it kind of turning on. The locator button is Ableton. We've got play and stop, head up and down. We have our settings menu. In here we have the presets, so you have 4 preset banks here, which you can save. You could kind of select one, input your variables. So you can save this, and there you go, that preset's been saved. We have stylus hours and the serial input, so this is your MIDI channel, and then stylus hours, new stylus hours, last stylus hours, you can reset this. This is our machine settings page, so where you set your head up and head down, your nudge, how far you want your nudge to go. You have system speed, so this is all in LPI. You have your lead in and lead out sizes as well, so this is your minimum lead out area and your lead in. And then we have the cutting areas as well in millimeters, so you can adjust these to suit, whatever you want. And we have our relays, so relay 1 is our stylus heat. So you can set it to start when the cut starts or when you move into the start position, and also when you want to turn it off. And the same with the other relays as well. And then this is our SP10 control. And then you have a calibration, which tells you how far from the home position, the head's going to move before it's in its kind of start position. You can set these here, and also in the main area if you click rehome after you've selected the size. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's Instate. So here we have our Ableton file.
But you can use any DAW that has MIDI, basically.
Yeah.
Pro Tools, Reaper,
yeah.
Cubase, whatever you're using.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the cut. We've got the cut to start. When we move the head to the start position, it's going to turn on the SP10. It's going to turn on our heat lamp. And then once I'm happy with the start position, which I've already programmed in, I'll just hit start. So we'll just turn off the mic to this camera, because otherwise it will be real loud with our vacuum on, and you can listen to the cut as well. Listen to the lead in, lead out. There is zero
noise,
zero motor noise, so you won't hear any reverberation through the stylus.
Maybe that. I don't think we've even mentioned that. The magnetic coupling.
Yeah.
The whole idea behind that is, like, we started off with belts and direct shaft couplings and all sorts of stuff, but just like totally unacceptable amounts of mechanical noise coming through the head, which is how we eventually ended up with magnetic coupling.
Yeah. And we have quite a resonant table. You can probably hear some of the audio coming in there from the lathe.
And so here, there's a 1 mil gap there, and this stepper motor doesn't come into contact with the lathe at all.
All right, so I'll just turn off this audio, and then we'll get started on the cut. So just to let you know, that was me touching the go to start position. So you'll go to start position before you start your cut. Pretty happy where this is. So I'm just going to go ahead. I might nudge it a bit. Now you have nudge controls as well, so I will just nudge this slightly. because I was using a smaller disc before. And then once you're happy with where it is, then we can go, and I'll just turn this off and we'll get the playback stylus playing as well. So that was basically how you do a cut. I'll just quickly talk about the setup. Shut up. So basically we've got a lead-in spiral at the beginning. Then in between those two tracks you have another MIDI note called a wind-on. I'll just make the screen a little bigger for you. So in between those tracks we have a wind-on, and then or a track gap, and then at the end is when you put your final MIDI note for the spiral out, and then that will automatically do a lock groove as well. Do you want to maybe show them the disc?
Sure.
So I think for those settings we had, let me have a look. We had 20 LPI on the lead-in and 5 LPI on the...
I don't know if we're going to know how to get a shot.
Yeah, it's going to be... Hang on, let me get this down. Oh yeah,
No,
so you can see it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically an automated cut. And yeah, that's how you do it. And you notice at the end, SP turned off and the light did as well. If you were using stylus heat, that would also be off. So let's come back here. So I guess now that you've seen it in action and whatever, maybe you want to ask us some questions. So does anyone have any questions about the machine or anything that we've shown you? You can just type it in the chat if you like. We talked about multiple...
We haven't talked about price.
Price.
So what we've wanted to do is make it as affordable as possible. And so what we're doing, like we know a lot of you guys are like us, you might be running 2 or more machines. So what we're going to do is, so the first pre-sale round is 3,000 Australian dollars, and it's worth noting that the Australian dollar is in the absolute toilet at the moment, so take advantage of that. The downside of us being in Australia is you're going to feel the full brunt of the shipping costs that we deal with on an almost daily basis here. We're going to try and make it as affordable as possible. We looked at various destinations, EU, UK, US, and it's around 215 Australian dollars to get it to you.
Yeah.
I think. The whole system weighs about 6 and a bit kilos, and we've tried to keep that to a minimum, bearing in mind more weight means more money for you. The multiple machine deal is basically this. If you're running 2 machines, your first machine costs 3,500 Australian, but any subsequent machines that you buy after that will come at the discounted rate as if you'd gotten it at the pre-sale round, which is 3,000.
Yeah. So
we're taking $500 Australian off the second and subsequent machines, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, we've tried to keep the cost as small as possible. I mean, we do the same thing as you. We know how we're all really acutely aware of how much or how little money you make. So we've done our best to sort of accommodate that. Like I said before, we did try and make the system run multiple machines from a single unit, but it just couldn't work. We tried for a while and we failed, basically. We came around to the multiple machines idea very early on, actually. So that was kind of the best we could do. And we're also fairly confident that people are going to like this. So what we're doing is, if you buy one and you don't like it, you've got a month to test it out, and if you think it's hopeless, send it right back. We'll give you every cent back. I guess they'll have to pay for shipping, I guess, but other than that, you can get every cent of your purchase price back. So I don't know, I couldn't live without it now. I've been using it for 3 years pretty much, and
I couldn't do without it. And I guess it's just no guesswork. It's like kind of all done for you, but then there is scope for creativity with it as well. So Sam Page says, is it compatible with the air suction platter mods?
A lot of people are super interested in the work we've been doing with suction platters, and I'll just talk about that for just a second. So we use it only when our blanks are really warped, and that actually hasn't been happening very much lately. So the reason being, what you get, unless you have like a perfectly machined platter, the actual making the modification to turn a Technic spindle to take air is actually that was the easy bit. It's the machining flatness of the platter which has turned out to be like the absolute ball breaker, and we've had some fairly decent success. I mean, we've got absolutely 100% usable platters, and we do use them, but most of the time we just use the lock nut. If the blanks are good, we just lock it as per series indication.
Another question from Plasti Disc. What's involved in setting the head height, i.e. the exact point where the stylus contacts the disc and lifts? So
that's a very good question.
So we'll send instructions on how we found it easiest to do, but you have a 360 degree range of motion in the head.
So basically the way that I connected it before is what all you have to do, and then you have a fine adjustment in the software. So you can set your up height and you can set your down height. So it's super simple. At first, when our first iterations of this idea, that was quite a complicated part, but now that we're doing it how we're doing it now, it's actually very simple. You just throw it on and make the fine adjustment in software.
So I'll just maybe quickly show you, I don't know if I'll be able to show you here, the head. So you adjust the up and down degrees within the software. I'm just going for 50 here and 10. I've kind of found like about 25 degree difference between up and down is the best. I go back, you could see it lift there because I've set the up height to be higher. So if you have a longer stone, for example, you can set your height a bit higher and what have you. And here you can see the head move and go down and up again. So yeah, it's
you can set those extremities in software. You can sort of fine tune it in software.
Yeah, and obviously, adjusting the weight as well, easy to do. Just put your head down and just you
just do it as normal.
As normal, yeah, and then you just find the right balance there. Are there any compatibility issues if using Suri's Groove distance controller?
We don't have one of those. Is that the little doodanger that you plug into that single RCA in the back of the main unit?
Maybe you could clarify that. It basically the only thing that we use the main unit for is for stylus heat, and on one of our layers we have an external
power supply, which we don't even. Our B lathe doesn't run a main unit at all.
Variable power supply that you can use.
So and we supply one of those 4-pin DIN leads with the system, so that if you are using the main unit, you basically plug your lathe stylus heat into the back of our rack that you get, and then out of our rack into your main unit. So it's basically just, and you leave your main unit heat on and set to however you want it, and it just has a relay which makes or breaks that connection. So it's as per, there's nothing to really learn there other than it does it for you.
Do they not mean the one that changes the LPI in response to the volume?
Oh, okay. So Suri has, okay, this is a really good opportunity to talk about variable pitch. So basically, if you utilize this system, Suri's motor control is completely redundant. And the only thing that the motor that Suri supplies to move your head, all it does is holds one end of the lead screw up from then on in. It's just sitting there kind of as a bearing. And it's completely controlled by the stepper motor. Now, so some people noticed in one of our Insta shots that there's actually an audio input on the back of our rack. Now, there's a fair bit of programming yet to do, but we're hoping variable pitch will come out as a purchasable upgrade early next year. So for those of you who are not quite sure what variable pitch is, basically the pitch that you set on your green knob on the main unit currently is a constant pitch all the way across the disc. What variable pitch does is it basically, if the cut can allow it, it will bunch up the grooves tighter to give you more cutting time per side. So that is, with our system at the moment, it is a static pitch. It's just like you dial in a pitch and that's what you get. But we've designed the hardware to accommodate an update, which is basically mostly to do with programming, and you won't need a feedback cut ahead. All you'll need is a firmware update, and we will be pouring our hearts and minds into that between now and probably around January, February. So again, it is at the moment it's a constant pitch, but the variable pitch is coming.
Did you ever try and cut, this is D on D, did you ever try and cut a 14-inch lacquer master disc after the automatic modification?
Well, we just actually got our first 14-inch lacquer disc into the studio last Wednesday. So no is the answer to that question, but the system allows for any size disc from 1 million inches to 0 inches in size. Now obviously the lathe can only do what it can do, but there's nothing stopping you from cutting odd size discs.
Yeah.
So 14-inch lacquer's no problem.
What else?
Actually, let's talk about that. That brings us to the idea of lead screws and what they do. What's the pitch on our lead screws? 1 mil.
1.75.
1.75 mil. Suri's Wisdom has put 1.75 mil onto the pitch on the lead screw, which pulls the head across. So what we've done with the software is we've allowed you to input whatever pitch you have as a lead screw. Now that's of no consequence to VR owners, but what it does mean to Presto 6N owner, for example, this system, and we are currently trying to track one down locally, we're going to purchase one so that we can adapt this system to Prestos. So basically whatever pitch lead screw you have on your lathe, you can adjust that pitch screw size or width in the software, so it can adapt to any system.
So you've got FTL cuts saying, "Sup boys, can it do loops?" I guess
like lock grooves. Is that what he's?
Yeah, is that what you mean? Lock grooves?
Because yes, we
can.
It can. So you can set them up, and we probably should have had one of them. Basically, you set it up in whatever DAW you're using. You basically just tell it, okay, so at 33, here's my 1.8 second loop, and you run it, and you just put your head down and head up at the beginning and end of that, and there you've got a lock groove.
And that's the benefit of having all of the functions as individual MIDI notes as well. It means that, you know, you can enable the motor, it will, or you wouldn't even do that. You would go head down, the audio would play, head up, you can move the motor a bit, go down again, do another one, and then just basically...
You could put 100 lock grooves onto a single side and none of them would fuck up.
Dion D says, we also need a serious suspension upgrade. The dashpot is the weakest part of the T560. Possible plan on this request?
Okay, so do I have it accessible?
We are in the process of building a couple more lathes, so we are trying to develop
Do I have it?
another type of suspension.
Okay. So this is something that, well, we're toying with a whole bunch of stuff. Like, we're constantly trying to improve things, but this, I don't know if anyone's seen these things. This is called an air pot. So basically, this could really nicely replace the dash pot on a Suri lathe, and very easily, because they're very similar sizes. Now, this comes from a company called AirPot, and I would encourage anyone who is trying to improve a VR to check these out. These guys actually sent us this for free, and you just turn this little knob at the top, and it kind of increases or decreases a little hole at the top. So basically no oil, and this thing is like some kind of like graphite thing. I'm not quite sure how they work it, but they're just super smooth, and like that's sort of like a simple dash pot replacement. I mean, ideally it would kind of, that whole suspension system would disappear, and rest assured the lathes that we're building over here have none of that gubbins on them. But if you are looking for a sort of quick, easy solution to getting rid of that dash pot, check out AirPots. I think they're a US company, but they'll send you a free sample.
We have Plastic Disc again saying, can you control the pitch using MIDI notes, i.e. create an LPI map during a track, riding the big knob virtually, if that makes sense?
It's an interesting request.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's not something that we've thought about developing. It is possible.
You could do it with automation in your DAW.
No, well, you could do it. Yeah.
It sounds like a Max for Live thing to me.
Well,
possibly.
separate MIDI notes. You could have a percentage of the LPI that's on here and increase it.
I'd love to. Anyway, the variable pitch.
But no, sorry.
No is the quick answer. But the variable pitch is something that is coming, which is kind of like, yeah, sort of like the kind of the big brother of that idea, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it will work in a similar way, where you'd have an LPI map basically. Cool. Anyone got any other questions? Hopefully we've answered all of those.
Look at that, it's bang on an hour.
Bang on an hour. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining us and checking out the system.
Yeah, and I think pretty much all of you, we're following you on Instagram. We're always looking at what other people are doing and getting ideas and trying to develop the things that we do here to better suit what it is that we do. So keep going. Like, yeah, we're all in this together, I guess.
Yeah.
it's a funny business to be in.
It is weird sometimes, isn't it? Where you're just like, cutting records.
Yeah, and everyone's a weirdo.
Including us.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks again, and yeah, this has been recording, so for anyone who joined late or had to go early or whatever, we'll stick it up and we'll send.
And we'll put all of the links in the description of this video, so that if you are coming to this conversation late, you'll be able to look at exactly what it is that we're talking about on the website and get updates from Dan's excellent emailing abilities.
Yeah, sweet. So yeah, like we said, launching on Monday, 10 units first for $3,000 plus shipping around $200.
And then we're hoping to have the second round come out before Christmas, and that will be a run of 20.
Yeah.
So basically, with the money that we get from the first 10, we're going to pour that into more parts to do the second one.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks for watching.
See ya. Hey.
Well, that went as well as could be expected.